One, we have 40 people and a number more have registered. We ask all of you to please keep muted. At your lower left is the microphone, but we ask anyone who's going to ask questions to put it in the chat. Some of you have sent in questions ahead of time. We're going to take a little while to allow friends from many different time zones to come in and join us. And we are recording the meeting today, and you all will receive a link from us, I think within the next 24 hours or so. Those of you who are not familiar with the viewing options in Zoom, on the upper right-hand corner, you can choose to focus on the speaker or the gallery. There will be a few of us who are going to be speaking, and I will be presenting questions. So we want to be mindful also that it's evening in India. It's 9:30 at night, and we appreciate that Devdip is staying up. We don't want to go much more than an hour and 20 minutes. So my name is Julian Lines, and I'm hosting on behalf of Aurobindo International USA, where I serve on the board. And I'm also president of Matagiri Sri Aurobindo Center in Woodstock, New York. I was previously involved with Aurobindo International and served as the chairperson and also on the International Advisory Council of Aurobindo, and have been a student of the yoga since 1972. We've gathered to spend time with Luc Venet and to discuss his new biography of Sri Aurobindo, The Never Dying Fire, published by Blue Ink in India. My thanks to Rakal Venet, who helped pull this event together, and to special thanks to Yana, who is our, if you could all stay muted, the mute button is in the lower left-hand corner. And special thanks to Yana, who's our media outreach person and technical support today for the Zoom, working with Aurobindo International USA. Please, she is posting daily on Facebook and Instagram, so please consider following Aurobindo International USA and seeing her informative posts, and also visiting aviusa.org, where there are a number of updates and newsletters, and most impressively, the project page from Aurobindo with all the extraordinary work that's going on there. There's a rich diversity of projects, which is very inspiring and based on Sri Aurobindo's vision, which we'll be discussing today. Luc Venet has been a longtime student of Sri Aurobindo's works. Luc lived in Aurobindo and Pondicherry, where he spent several years immersed in Sri Aurobindo's teachings. He then traveled to America, where he lived and worked as publisher of the 13 volumes of Mother's Agenda. That's Mother's Agenda of the Supramental Action on Earth, Mind of the Cells, and other very important works. Luc currently resides in France, but is coming to us from England at the moment. Devdip Ganguli teaches courses based on the writings of Sri Aurobindo at the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education in Pondicherry. He's also invited to teach in universities in India and abroad. We had a very interesting conversation about his time in China. And he is the co-editor of Reading Sri Aurobindo, which is a collection of excellent essays on Sri Aurobindo's major works, published by Penguin Random House in 2022. Devdip is going to be conducting the interview, and later on, I will pose any questions that are sent in via the chat or were sent in earlier when you registered. So Devdip, would you consider taking over and continuing the conversation with Luc Venet?
Julian, thank you for the introduction and welcome to all of you who have joined from so many different parts of the world. I am truly delighted to have this conversation with Luc Venet uh, on his book, The Never Dying Fire, The Life and Thought of Sri Aurobindo. Earlier in August, Luc, I was fortunate to be present during the inauguration of your book, which I was able to do along with your brother Rakhal, whom I have since then come to know more and more and consider a friend now. And um, we were not able to have you in Pondicherry during the inauguration, so I'm happy that we can have this conversation online today, thanks to AVI USA and Matagiri and all the team that has put this together. So we have about an hour, and what I would like to propose is that we will start with some general questions about how you came to Pondicherry, your association with the mother, with Satprem, and then we will move to the book itself, and I will ask you some questions related to the book and how you wrote it, the process, what were some of the challenges, and so on. And then we will end this session with questions from the audience that Julian and I will curate. So for those of you who have any questions which come up during the session, as Iona was telling us earlier, you can put that into the chat box and it will reach all the moderators immediately. And we will then curate the questions from what we have in the chat box. So with that, Luke, welcome once again. And I want to launch straight into your story, Luke. How did you come to the mother and Sri Aurobindo?
Well, I came to the mother and Sri Aurobindo like most people. In other words, in appearance, completely by randomness. There was nothing in my previous life as a mathematician who would predispose me to meet somebody like the mother. It's something that I just found on the spur of the moment, as it were. I was involved in reading Satprem's excellent book, the Sri Aurobindo or The Adventure of Consciousness in French, which I discovered also by chance. And of course, after reading this book, you cannot but be curious as to what is real and what is a dream in the writing. And so I was very eager to try to see this thing that I had read, and so I took almost the first plane to Pondicherry, and that was, of course, my first contact. This is when I had my first contact with the mother. I'm sorry, there is a dog barking in the room, which I'm sure you can hear. And the dog is barking because somebody is knocking at the door. You see, this is the unpredictability of things. So I think that this man is there. Could I stop for just half a minute?
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
And see what it is about. Just a minute, please.
Yes, yes. Happens to the best of us.
No, this makes a good practical joke for next time we have a Zoom. We'll have to remember this, to send a FedEx package to be delivered during the Zoom. So
it happens more often than we would think, Julian. Yeah.
I always find it charming when the child runs in during the CNN interview. They're trying to bring it back into the other room. It's quite delightful. So gives a sense of being live. To remind everyone who's come in late, this is being recorded. It will be available, and if you have to leave early for some reason, you can get the link. Everyone who registered will get a link to the complete recording. Okay, Luc.
Okay, I'm back.
Luke,
Sorry
welcome
about
back.
that.
You were telling us about your reading The Adventure of Consciousness, and
Yes,
then you came as soon as you could to Pondicherry. So please go on.
yes. I just would like simply to make a very short point about what happens to you when you are on that little terrace upstairs near mother's room and you have absolutely no clue as to what is going to happen to you. You've heard a lot of things, naturally. You've heard many things, but you don't know. And the very the incredible emotion, for me translated by an emotion, that you feel when you enter that room, even before seeing her, before looking at her, the incredible vibration and that you feel when you enter that room. And then, of course, when you meet her face to face, when you see her eyes and she looks at you, this is something that no one can describe. Each person has got their own experience. I just wanted to say that this is for me what really triggered everything, and why I'm here today. Also, because it's something that cannot be. It is not of a human nature. It's something that you cannot describe. So, anyway, after coming down from mother's room and crying a lot of tears come at that point. You don't know where they come from. They are there. And walking along the beach with those tears falling from me and not knowing at all what was going on, I then started to read books and starting to understand with my mind a little bit of the process. And this is what we are all doing today, trying to understand with our mind.
Sorry to interrupt you, Luc. Which year was this when you
This
first
is
came?
1969.
1960.
I was 26. I was full of mathematics. I have what is called in France an agrégation de mathématiques, which means that I see the world in terms of equations and logics and everything wonderfully organized by what we don't know. But anyway, it makes sense. It makes sense. Everything is perfectly 1 and 1 equal 2 and so on and so forth. But here, nothing made sense. Absolutely nothing made sense. When mother was in front of me and looking at me, what I felt didn't make sense. And this is what we are all, I suppose, trying to do bit by bit, year after year, is to try to make sense of what we experience at that point.
Luc, for those of us who did not have the good fortune of having the physical darshan of the mother, the recounting of the experience of meeting her is something that is really, we really cherish it. Every time I have grown up in the ashram, and I often ask the older people who are still around what their experience was of meeting or interacting with the mother. And it's something which is always very moving. And though it is similar, it is also different. Everyone approaches and opens in a different way.
Yes.
So please continue. What happens after your first visit?
Well, I went back home again to try to make sense of what was going on, really, why I felt what I felt. I could never answer the question in a meaningful way. I could only sort of go around it and feel feel. The feeling was more important than the understanding, obviously. And then I said, okay, I didn't even say anything. I thought my life has changed. Starting from now, my life is different. I'm going to see the world, obviously, in a very, very different way. I don't know exactly how, but that's going to, I know that something has changed drastically. And so I'm going to continue my teaching for a few years, maybe see what happens, and so on and so forth. And then eventually I'm going to go to Pondicherry. This is my place. This is where I feel that I belong. I belong there. I don't know why. I don't know why you belong, but you belong. And so this is exactly what happened. A few years later, I arrived this was 1972, the centenary of Sri Aurobindo. And of course, I participated in the celebration, and mother appeared on our balcony again, and there was all this very quite well-known activity that takes place at that point, with people, many thousands of people coming to see her again. And then eventually I ended up in Auroville and working in Auroville and doing what the Aurovillians do, which is to try to survive and exist in a very difficult environment, planting trees and building houses and so on and so forth. And then another point for me was the meeting with Satprem. I felt that Satprem, because I knew what he was doing at that point through the agenda and through the notes on the way, I felt that this man was out of the ordinary, that he was somebody special for us all. He was an example of, not only was he completely faithful to every word that mother was pronouncing, understanding, but he was also, by his example, he was also showing that he understood even when it was difficult to understand. And so I thought that he was, in a way, an example for us all, for everybody who wanted to get closer to the mother. This was a man who, for me, was a representative of the closeness that one can have with the mother. So we got closer at some point, and I expressed the notion, the desire to help in a concrete way. And when, after mother's passing away, he then asked me, we both decided that I was going to try to publish the agenda in English in America. This is what I did for several years. And roughly until 1977 or something like that. And then I went back to France. And after all these years of being close to Satprem, of reflection, etc., I thought that I would try to express my own, what would happen if I tried to say something, to write something. And this is really the birth of the book that is in question today, to try to express my own feeling and how I would see this whole experience. So the book is really my own interpretation of this life that I've had with Satprem and and mother, and how I see Sri Aurobindo and what it means to me, etc., etc. Well, this is basically the result of all this life of interrogation.
And after you went back to France, have you been coming once in a while to Auroville, to Pondy?
Yes, exactly. I took several trips back, of course, marveling at every time at the progress of things, of how things were developing and how Auroville was growing, being also very mindful of all the difficulties that people are facing. And I could see from the start, I could see that this was a very difficult uh, endeavor. And but I'm mostly interested in a sort of remote way, but I could it's the way that makes sense for me to be a little away and yet to be part of this in another sense, to be part of this overall project.
So, Luke, coming more directly to the book itself, I have a copy of the book.
Yes, yes.
Um, there have been many biographies that have been written on Sri Aurobindo, and we know the very, often quoted letter of Sri Aurobindo where he says, "My life has not been on the surface for men to see."
Yes.
And yet there is a natural curiosity and interest. And even in his lifetime, Sri Aurobindo was engaging with some of the people who were writing about his life. So it is not as if it's a very black and white situation. It's complex. I want to ask you first, what were you attempting to do through this biography that you felt is different from the ones that have already been written?
In a way, to answer your question, I would say that everyone ideally should try to express himself or herself to put on a piece of paper what he feels about Sri Aurobindo. I think that's an excellent exercise. Sometimes it can be carried off all the way to writing a book. Sometimes it could be maybe a few pages or whatever. But when you put down a piece of paper, when you start putting down a piece of paper, what you feel about this thing that has taken over your whole life, deep inside you, something happens to you, and then you see, for example, that things flow naturally, or things you come up with things that you had never thought about before about yourself. You discover things simply by trying to express this very incredible meeting of your soul with Sri Aurobindo and Mother. Something happens. And so I think it's an excellent exercise. I happen to be very, very pointed because I'm by definition a teacher, more of an intellectual person than most perhaps. So I was really trying to. I really would like to express something, and I would not give up, after a few pages. And I wanted to have something that made sense. But I wanted to have something that made sense for me, to resolve certain things that perhaps I did not understand enough in Sri Aurobindo's writing, and to really get closer. And this is what the purpose of the exercise was all about. It was about trying to get close to him, to her, and to see. Let's see what you can come up with. Well, let's see what you say. What do you say after meeting mother? What can you express? How can you put it in words? This is the question. And I'm very surprised, by the way, of this whole thing of having, many people watching this interview, because I did not expect that at all. I expected my book to go to a bookstore and to be sold, and nothing much more than that, really. I'm very surprised of the reaction. I'm very pleased and very I'm very, very happy. But well.
So what I'm hearing, Luc, is that it is as much a process of self-growth as it is a book that is seeking to give information or recounting the events of Sri Aurobindo's life. So it's
Yes.
it's a personal process as well.
Yes. It is about saying, okay, it's like talking to myself. It's like, okay, this thing is so important for you. So what can you say about it? How can you put it? It's not enough to simply have an emotion. It's wonderful to have an emotion, obviously. But it's also about, okay, what can you say about it? How can you put it? How would you put it? How would your soul express what you felt? And try, and just try to do it. There is no other way than trying. So this is for me a little bit what happened, to challenge myself. It's a big challenge.
I do resonate with what you are saying, because having read a few of the biographies, there are some well-known ones, A.B. Purani. More recently, of course, we had Peter Heese's biography, and there have been many others. In fact, even in 22 and 2023, there have been one or two other biographies that have also come out. And what I find, and I'm kind of mirroring what you are saying, is that it's not only the information about Sri Aurobindo's life, but you also get into contact with how each author is connecting to the master, in what way. So it's like every biography reveals something, some facet that is highlighted based on the writer's own predilection, which is wonderful. And one thing which I, having gone through your book, which I appreciate very much, is that it has a certain quality of simplicity and sincerity. It does not try to be a comprehensive, minutely detailed historical record, as much as it is something which carries the feeling of Sri Aurobindo's presence and consciousness. Later, I will read an extract from the book. But before we come to that, do you want to share some of the challenges in the writing process and some of your, moments of victory, something that you felt was a vindication of your effort?
To tell you the truth, I mean, the book was very long to write. I think I spent, if I remember, not continuously writing, but if I remember correctly, the whole thing has taken like 7 or 8 years actually to come up with. So you can see, for example, that the part that is involved with his revolutionary days, when he's before Pondicherry, is probably a little easier to write because there are some facts that we can rely on, things that he has done. What the big challenge of Sri Aurobindo is that he is silent. He wrote a lot, of course, but he is basically silent. He doesn't say what he does. He doesn't say. He doesn't talk about his actions. he doesn't say such and such a day I did this and it had such and such a result. He doesn't. You have to guess. You have to imagine what Aurobindo could have done that day, and how he did it, and what was his reaction. For example, a big challenge, a big thing with Aurobindo is that we think that he is emotionless, that he doesn't have any emotion. But everything in him happens without emotion, just like a machine. If I may say so, I can say so. But it's not at all the case. He's full of emotion. He's full of trial and perhaps error. So, all these things have got to make him a human being, to make him to relate to him. We can only relate to him if we think of him in terms of emotion, proximity of emotions, of being. And this is what counts. This is what counts, because you don't want to have pages of wisdom after pages of wisdom and nothing else. We need to feel. We need to feel, and this is what I try to do. I don't know if I succeeded all that well, but this is what I try to do, and to feel simplicity also, to feel the simplicity of the process. Not to go into, these elaborate contrivances and pieces of wisdom that you read everywhere. But you don't need Aurobindo to do that, because the process is simple. This is why we love it. This is why we are involved in it, because it is simple. And to render that simplicity is our task, basically. If we can. It's not always easy.
No, that's I often think that if we did not have the letters that were exchanged between Sri Aurobindo and the disciples, or the evening talks that were recorded, we would have such a limited view of Sri Aurobindo. If we just went by his published, Arya books, which are of course extraordinary, but it's when you read the letters and the correspondence that you really feel as you say, the human, the divine in a human, compassion and care and solicitude for the difficulties that the sadhaks were facing. So I think that's really well taken. I also notice in your book that most of the book really deals with Sri Aurobindo's life before he came to Pondicherry. And towards the end, you have a few chapters where you take up his life in Pondicherry, the coming of the mother, and then you kind of bring the book to a close around 1926 and shortly thereafter. So I think the focus when you're writing about his life is also mostly what is happening when he was in the public eye, so to say.
Yes.
And I appreciate that you have not really attempted to write about the last few decades of his life, which really was not for anyone to see because it was so much an indrawn process. And the other thing which I appreciate, Luc, in your book is that very aptly chosen quotations. You have a lot of quotations in your book. Is it that you wanted the reader to feel something directly coming from Sri Aurobindo and the mother? What was the reason for so many quotations?
Yes, absolutely. I think nothing can replace Sri Aurobindo's words. We can describe a little bit the process around the words of Sri Aurobindo, but the words are absolutely enormously important. Because that's his way of expressing his experience. That's his way of opening our hearts. You know, we need to have an open heart to understand Sri Aurobindo. If your heart is closed, then there is no chance, because the words are very simple. They are very common words, but then they touch somewhere at another level. They touch, and we need to be touched. We need to open up to our hearts to another dimension of things. And again, this is, you know, I don't know if I succeeded very much, but this was my attempt, really, to say as simply as I could, to say what I felt, reading him and being near to mother. That was the main goal of the book, really.
Who is the audience you were writing for? So typically when authors write, they have a certain audience in mind. You're writing for such and such group of people. Did you have a specific audience in mind? Is it people who don't know anything about Sri Aurobindo and the mother, or is it addressed to people like us who are already, you know, in this approach? What was your intention?
Yes, I think probably I would like to write for anybody, you know, anybody who has intelligence and who has a heart and who can feel things behind the lines, as it were. This is the greatest thing that is possible, you know, is to not to eliminate the ones who know more. Of course not, because they can always criticize me and talk to me and you know and discuss, critique what I say or how I interpret things. But yes, I would like to touch anybody that is touchable, you know, absolutely, yes. That would be the greatest thing, the greatest gift. There was possibility like that. Yeah.
So Luke, you have been coming to Auroville and Pondicherry since the late 60s, so now for more than 50 years. And there is a whole generation of people, right? Over the years, already people who were there during Sri Aurobindo's time who are no more. And now we have a whole generation of people who knew the mother, knew within quotes, but interacted with her, saw her, met her. And I'm wondering if you have any reflections on how you have seen the Sri Aurobindo community grow over the last 50 years, and if you have any thoughts about the future, if there is something that you would like to share.
This is a bit more difficult because, to tell you the truth, I did not have a lot of contacts and with the Sri Aurobindo community. I, of course, love the ashram, love staying in the ashram, love talking to ashramites and smiling with them and be with them. And the same with Auroville, naturally. But I think the whole thing about this is that everyone who is involved has a personal relationship with the mother. And this is what counts beside everything else. And when we talk to someone, we actually talk to that thing which is behind, you know, which is not why are we all touched the way we are. So there is a commonality of feeling. And I think this is what is most important between us, between people who have known mother, who have known Sri Aurobindo. And that comes up automatically. I mean, the words, in a way, the words are simple. And I think that as long as we can keep that 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 attitude, and the community can keep close to Mother and Aurobindo, I think it will go on and on and on and on. There is no reason why it should stop, because what we are looking at, what we are looking for, is unstoppable. It's the essence. It's the essence of everything. So how can you stop the essence? So it's no, the future is ours. In one way, ours. Not in an egotistical way, but in the approach. I think there is nothing better. Nothing can be better. Nothing can change that. No, I do, and that's why, for example, for Auroville, I know Auroville has got lots of, going through lots of difficulty and so on. But I think the future is of the same caliber, of the same nature. It's going to succeed, but there is no other way.
That's beautiful. What I want to do, Luc, is to read a short passage from your book.
Yes.
And in fact, if you would like to read it, that's fine too. I have a passage in mind. But
Okay.
if you would like to read it in your own voice, I think that would be even better than me reading it. And
Okay.
I want to also remind those of you who are listening that you can send in your questions through the chat box on your screen. France, I saw your hand raised. Please send in the question through the chat. And the last, we will do a short reading of a passage from the book. And then the last 10-15 minutes, we will open it to your questions, whatever you would feel like asking Luc. So please go ahead and send in those questions. Luc, would you like to select a passage of your liking and read it for
Oh,
us?
I thought you had
I
a
have
passage.
actually, the passage that I have, Luc, is actually the beginning of the book. And the
Okay.
reason is, the very first page where you describe the first chapter, arriving in India, and you describe Sri Aurobindo's coming to Bombay by ship and the experience that he has as he sets foot on land. And the reason I like that passage is because it gives us immediately the flavor of your book. There is a certain poetic quality and also a kind of emphasis on the experience rather than the physical historical facts. So what I wanted to read was the very first page of your book. But if you have something else in mind that you would like to read instead, please go ahead.
I think it's an excellent choice, because I cannot tell you how much I worked on that first page. It was very, very difficult. First of all, just as a sort of aside, my book was conceived with the whole youth in England. I thought I would start when he was very, very young and he was doing all this studying and so on and so forth. And then the arrival in India came after. And then one day I had a flash. And the flash said, no, the whole real thing is India. And the real thing is when it comes to India. This is Sri Aurobindo and India. This is the beginning of everything. And of course, it's wonderful to study in England, but the real thing is Bombay and the sun over Bombay. These are the two images that stuck in my mind. And I think I don't know that I'm pleased absolutely with everything that first page, but the basic idea is there. So if you want, I will read.
Yeah, yes. First pages are always difficult. For Savitri, I believe that the first page or the first section of the first canto of Savitri was rewritten something like 50 times by Sri Aurobindo before he came upon it was the hour before the gods awake.
Yeah,
So yes, please go ahead, Luke. Please read the
Okay.
first.
All right. So this is just the first page. Huh? Aurobindo contemplated the liquid darkness about him. At long last, a pale line ruptured the horizon. India was drawing near. To the throbbing of its engines, the steamer headed towards the growing light. Burning off the last shreds of morning mist, an enormous sun soared into the sky, revealing the outline of a city. The day dawned on Bombay. Aurobindo Ghosh was 20. He was returning from England, where he had spent 13 years steeped in Western classical culture. A Greco-Latin scholar and erudite in several European languages, he spoke refined English and wrote in a style that had, I'm sorry, I'll return I'll come back to this paragraph because the phone was ringing here again. Aurobindo Ghosh was 20. He was returning from England, where he had spent 13 years steeped in Western classical culture. A Greco-Latin scholar and erudite in several European languages, he spoke refined English and wrote in a style that had heard him praised from his professors at Cambridge. After a month at sea, he stepped ashore onto the Apollo Bunder, the long harbor pier of Bombay, amidst the hustle and bustle of a large, colorful Indian crowd. Happy memories from his childhood flashed in his mind as he made his way through the jumble of porters and zigzagging handcarts, children and dogs, heavily laden donkeys and placid cows. As he absorbed the flood of colors and clamor, a strange sensation gradually overcame him. An immense calm pervading his entire being. All feelings and thoughts became utterly still and vanished into an extraordinary silence, as if his very individuality had dissolved into an unlimited blank self. Boundaries abolished, every object and living creature around him became part of his vaster self. A momentless immensity, pure and bare, I stretch to an eternal everywhere. The whole world breathed within him. He abandoned himself to the fullness of the moment. Voilà. So this is my poor reading, and I'm sorry for the interruption. This is the first page.
No, it's beautiful. I think it really evokes a certain atmosphere and presence which is precious.
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
thank you for that.
This is what I try to do. Yeah.
So we have been speaking for about 50 minutes. Julian, would you like to come back in front of us and also help with the questions. I can already start with, we have a few questions in the chat, and I can start reading out some of them.
Yes, but we want to reward the people who followed Jana's directions and submitted their questions when they registered. So if you don't mind, I'll give first
Perfect.
preference to them and we can share.
Let's do that.
The first is Luc, I thank you for all your work revealing Sri Aurobindo and Mother. Is there a focus or attitude or way of being or practice that an aspirant of the transformation might utilize to empower an opening to the forces they, Sri Aurobindo and Mother, have brought to earth to hasten the appearance of the supramental here in the outer physical? Easy first question.
Oh, easy. The question. It is simply the question. Look, I think we are all different. And we are also in front of Mother, we are all the same. So, it's her. Everything is in her. Everything is the contact with her and with her consciousness. And this is what we have to aim at. There is no way in the day when you would not do that. You can do it anytime, waking, when you are sleeping, when you are asleep, when you are awake. You can do that at any time. That's what counts. It's the proximity of that contact, and the contact has got to be inner. The outer does not really. Well, the outer is also adds to it makes us more happy when we have an outer contact, obviously, and we can grasp something. But the inner part is the most important. The inner, and that's silence. Inner silence.
Thank you, Luc. And another question. Does your biography differ markedly from Peter He's The Lives of Sri Aurobindo? And if so, how?
I'm really not capable of answering that question, before the exegetes to decide on that. Really, I didn't try, as I tried to explain, I didn't try to compete with Peter in any way. I read his book. His book is good. There is a lot of information, perhaps more information than in mine. It's possible. I don't know exactly. But both things are important, and I think I would recommend to read both.
Well, I certainly got new information from both. So that was enjoyable. And I think Devdip, in asking you to read that first page, it's something that always charms me about Sri Aurobindo's aphorisms, where the prose and poetry combine. And in that, there's a kind of invocation of a atmosphere, a vibration. And certainly you've captured that in different parts of your book. So that's something that, rather than a straight historical biography, you have this lyrical and poetic quality that I very much appreciate. Another question, The Mother, Notebook on Evolution. The questioner writes, I never heard of it until a few months ago. I have most of the essential books. I didn't see a copyright. Someone mentioned that you may have some information about this book. I would very much like to know how it came into print. I'm hoping this book is something that is really her words. It's written in a tone that I believe is in the mother's hand. Things get hopeful, my thought, starting on page 224, entitled 1969, The New Consciousness. Honestly, it seems to open a place she never described before.
I did not exactly catch the title of the book.
Notebook on Evolution.
Notebook on Evolution. Is there a book called Notebook on Evolution? I know Notes on the Way.
Notes on the Way is a compilation
Yes,
from the agenda published
from the
by the
agenda.
ashram.
Yeah. But notebooks on evolution,
The Mother Notebook on Evolution. Okay, so this was not published by the Institute for
no,
Evolutionary
not
Research.
that I know of. No,
Okay.
not that I know of. I don't know. Perhaps it exists in any case. You know, I'm not sure. I'm a little bit confused here.
Okay, well, maybe there's a reference that we can get in the chat.
Yeah.
Devdip, would you like to read some of the questions from the chat?
Yeah. I might be completely wrong, Julian, but I have seen this book, and if I'm not mistaken, but I might be really not entirely correct, but I have a feeling it doesn't have an author. I've heard it being attributed to Sujata Nahar, but I don't really know.
Mhm.
But I haven't read the book either, so I can't really comment on it.
Yeah.
So let me take some questions from the chat. So there is Patrick Beldio, whose question is, why was English and the USA the language and context of publishing the agenda instead of, say, French and Europe?
Well, as far as I know, the agenda is French. It's in French. It was spoken in French. When it was translated in the US, because the US is such a vast possibility of marketing that clearly it had to be translated into English. But the translation was not easy. You know, it was difficult to translate Mother's words, Mother's expression also into English. But I think by and large, it was a necessary move, you know, to do that.
I have another question from a couple of questions actually from Neeraj Joshi, who asks, can your book be approached as a devotional text? And do you think Sri Aurobindo has blessed your book?
Well, you can ask that question as much as I can. You know, I've absolutely no idea. You don't write. Of course, you like to be blessed by Sri Aurobindo. The more, the better. But you know, it's all an individual. It's all an individual. You know, aspect that you are trying to bring. It's for yourself. You write a book for yourself, and if it pleases other people, that's so much the better.
And his first question, can the book be approached as a devotional text?
What does it mean, a devotional text? You mean to make pranab in front of the book?
I think I'm guessing what the questioner means is it a book that is written from a devotional perspective? That's my hunch.
Certainly, yes, it is. It is. If I didn't have any devotion, I couldn't have written such a book. Surely, it is. It is in that sense. It is devotional. I would like to think that it is a devotional book, but
Great.
it's up to everyone to read it and to interpret as he wishes, he or she wishes.
All right. Then we have another question from John, who asks, how do we integrate Satprem's or the mother's transmutation of the species with the onslaught of high black magic artificial intelligence affecting human consciousness now?
Oh boy, you mean the the distortion that we are going through with the so-called sects and occultism and all of
No,
that stuff.
no, I think he's referring to artificial intelligence, computer technology.
Oh, oh, oh,
Uh,
oh.
how
No,
does that
well,
how does that link with the transformation of consciousness?
no. I think there I think I can answer because I'm a former mathematician, and artificial intelligence is one of the things that I understand, or that I could understand because of my math background. And I can tell you that it has nothing to do with mother. I don't see any point of reference or any connection. It's very appealing to the mind. Huh? All these things are very appealing to the mind, but the heart does not participate. I doesn't at all. Too bad.
Thank you, Luke. Julian, would you like to ask any last questions to Luke?
There was
I-
one more asking about how the separation with Sat Prem happened. What was the reason?
What does one mean by separation?
That's the question. Can you speak about what made you separate from Sat Prem? What
I
was the
did
reason?
I did not separate from Satprem at any point. Satprem is not somebody always easy to comprehend. You know, I am not somebody. Also, I'm just a human being. He is also a human being. So we had some at some point we had some arguments. But I never separated from him, I don't think. And I still see him truly, honestly, and sincerely as the best example that we have of a man who has taken the path of Mother and Aurobindo. And for me, that's the essential. That's really the essential. And if I could emulate him in any way, I certainly would try, you know. So no, the question is a bit, meaningless.
Thank you, Luke. Another question. Is Luke currently working on writing a book about the mother? And if yes, when will it be out?
Well, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. I am actually thinking of writing something, but I don't know if I'll be able to. And the basic theme would be transfer. It would be I could put it in a question. The question would be transformation for what? Transformation for what? Because of course the book Mother's Agenda is about her transformation. I believe that when she talks about transformation, she's talking far more than just transforming herself, even physically. I think she's talking about transforming the world. And so the idea would be to try to express in what way and how that physical transformation of the mother would actually contribute to the transformation of our world, and how it could be done. If she did it, it's obviously because it's possible. But we are not exactly sure of how it would work. What would be what. So I would like to write on that subject. I don't know if I can. I don't know if, because it's very tricky to relate the two things. Transformation a species, we understand more or less what it would mean. It would mean having a different functioning of the body and maybe a different body and so on. But transformation of the world into what? What kind of world do we want? How would that new world be? How would it function? How would it? And how are the two related? You know, these are separate, very separate ideas. So that's what I would like to at least try to think about.
Wonderful. For those of you who came late, Luc began the conversation talking about how writing the book was a process for him to be, in a way, closer to Sri Aurobindo and to understand, and recommended it almost. You talk about what is the practice. Well, the practice can be writing about Sri Aurobindo or writing about the mother and giving yourself an opportunity to ask these essential questions. As you were speaking, I thought, really, this transformation, Satprem brought the word contagion, which generally has a pejorative sense, and made it something positive. And now we have this word resonance, which is almost a similar vibratory feeling. You know, there's something that's beyond our mental understanding, but that we feel and connect with. And I love that Satprem brought that sense of contagion in a good way. Someone asks, what is your experience of Sri Aurobindo's Savitri?
I don't have a lot of experience with Savitri. I think many people have more experience than I do. I understand. I think I love reading it. I love reading going into the movement of Savitri, the movement of the lines and so on. It's absolutely wonderful. But I must say I have been more involved with the agenda and Satprem's relationship with the mother than directly with Savitri. So I can't really make a lot of intelligent statement about it. Other than the fact that I love reading it, obviously.
Well, we benefit so much from your study. It comes through that you have gone into the record of yoga, which is not that easy, but you convey a lot of those essential experiences in your biography. And I want to encourage everyone to purchase the book.
Oh, yes.
We
Yes.
have, thanks to Rakal, we hope to have it available in America via Oromer in California. That may take a few weeks. It is available on Amazon. I ordered a copy just so that when I put my review, I would be listed as a verified buyer. So I have, I think it's in my mailbox right now. I have one closing review I want to share, but Devdip, do you have any closing comments?
Just to say, thank you, Luke. It was really a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank
And
you.
I, like Julian, I recommend reading the book just to feel its atmosphere that you've been able to convey,
Thank you very
something
much.
of the presence of Sri Aurobindo.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'm very touched and very surprised at the same time, as I said.
Thank you. And Julian, I'll hand it over to you to close the session.
Yes, I just wanted to share a review that I tried to put up, on Amazon. I read the reviews to see what other people are thinking and what their ratings are, and it counts for something. So this was my attempt. Reading this biography, I felt like I was turning the faceted jewel of Sri Aurobindo's life in a bright light, with sparks of different colors, revealing important aspects of this extraordinary sage. Venet gives brief glimpses of every stage, from his birth in Calcutta to his education at Cambridge, his return to India and the service of the Maharaja of Baroda, and his onward political and spiritual journey. Venet's familiarity with Sri Aurobindo's writings and the historical record gives relevant context to both the inner and outer worlds this great man explored. Building and expanding on Venet's earlier writing, this is the book to get.
Nice, very nice.
So
I agree.
we end with a little bit of commercial. I want to say that at Matagiri, it's one of the few places in the States you can get the entire agenda. And we invite you to come visit us. And there's so many wonderful friends who've gathered. I think maybe we can have a salon meeting. I'm sure there are many questions that are unasked, and that we would perhaps schedule another event in the future where we could have a conversation among many old friends
Okay,
who are gathered today.
sounds good.
Okay,
Excellent.
we'll wait for you to get back home in France. And we thank you so much for your time today, Luc, and for Devdip and Yana and Rakal and everyone who contributed to organizing. And thank you all for joining in. We'll end the recording. Yana, you want to say anything in closing? You had said that it may be available in the next 24 hours or so, and that everyone who subscribed
Sure.
will get it.
Yeah, we'll try to download this and have it available as a link on YouTube. It's going to be a private link for the next few weeks, and eventually it's going to be posted on our Orville Live YouTube channel. So I will be hard at work editing everything and uploading it. So I'm hoping that everyone's going to get the link to the recording of this by tomorrow morning. So thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you very much,
And
Yana. Thank you.
thank you.
Namaste.
Thanks, Yana.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Okay.
Take care.